Dan, thank you. This event this year has gone especially well, and the difference between last year and this year is you were in charge this year, so thank you very much for what you've done. We do have one last discussion item here, and I guess it is sort of a housekeeping thing in the sense of the house that we're all building together. And we will probably have an additional update like this undoubtedly at our next session as well next year. But we wanted just to give you a very brief update on what's going on at 16 Tech. And we've talked about that. I think really this will be the third conference that we've discussed it. Always before, it has been an idea that was coming, a wonderful convergent place for technologies anchored by the Indiana Biosciences Research Institute, but really extending across all forms of technologies, including healthcare and healthcare information technology, as well as engineering and other related disciplines. To get where we are with 16 Tech at this point has involved a lot of people coming together and making big things happen. It's involved very generous philanthropic awards at a very early time from our colleagues at the Richard M. Fairbanks Foundation and Lilly Endowment. It has involved an unprecedented commitment by the city of Indianapolis to commit $75 million to the infrastructure development of 16 Tech. It has required endless amounts of patience and creativity from our colleagues at Browning, who have done wonderful work in helping us pull the development of this site together. It's required great technical skill and patience also. Patience is a constant word here. From John Kish, who has been the project leader and continues to be the project leader. We've reached, we are about to make huge amounts of progress, and you're going to see a lot of things happen out there in the months ahead. But we've reached one critically important milestone already, and that is we had to be able to attract talent to 16 Tech because, of course, it is a talent attraction project. And the first talent we had to attract was someone to lead it. And that's the person I want to introduce to you briefly here today. He is someone, if you don't know him now, you will get to know him very well. And we are delighted that he has joined us here. And his name is Bob Coy. Bob is a veteran economic development and entrepreneurial expert. Most recently, he has run the Cincy Tech organization, which is really is probably the premier seed and early stage life sciences, healthcare, and related technologies investment funds based in Cincinnati. It started out as a Third Frontier program, and Bob added a whole bunch of really talented angel investors to that. It has been an awesomely successful model. And even though Bob's job at 16 Tech isn't technically to run investments, we really are glad he's here with that kind of background and expertise. That organization has raised more than $680 million in seed, early, and later stage capital in companies that employ nearly 1,000 people. So Bob is one of those people, as I've described to somebody recently, who takes ideas that sound really big and bold and really hard to do because they involve practical results and practical outcomes like returns on investment or real estate development. And Bob is one of those people who can actually take the big idea and turn it into wonderful, wonderful practice. So again, we thought it would be great for you to have a chance to talk with him today. There are many of you that I am very eager for him to meet one-on-one as he settles in here, but he's already making just terrific progress. So Bob, could you come up and give us just a brief update on 16 Tech, and then we'll close out the event.
Thank you very much, David. Pleasure to be here with you this morning to give you a brief update on 16 Tech. As David said, it's an innovation district, and it's part of a growing trend across the country in most major cities where cities are leveraging their intellectual assets in their research institutions and universities and nearby land to create dense environments where innovative and entrepreneurial companies can locate, collaborate, develop new products and processes. And our version of that here is 16 Tech. And you can see, I'm sure many of you have seen this in the past. It's across from the hospital complex between 10th and 16th Street with Indiana running along the side and bounded by the Fall Creek and the White River. It's a little gritty right now if you go there, but if you see it from the air, you can see that it's just a beautiful site. And I think in the very near future, you'll see a lot of activity. In fact, if you go there now, you'll already see some activity because Cook Regentech is sort of the urban pioneer and has taken an older building at the entrance to 16 Tech, just across from the hospital complex, and is investing a substantial amount of money to put Regentech in there. And so we've had some significant developments since June, and it doesn't correspond with the date that I started, although I started in June. But the project had been stalled for a period of time because of an EPA issue. And that EPA issue has been resolved to the point where it's now feasible for developers to get financing to begin the construction process. And that's the phase that we're moving into right now. So if I can figure out how to use this clicker. There. Oh. What did I do? Am I getting it? Okay. Well, the first point I want to make is one that you're already aware of, and that is that there is a trend underway across the country and really across the world of larger corporations moving significant operations, particularly their headquarters and their innovation assets, back to urban areas. And a study was done in 2015 of 500 companies that found a substantial number of those companies have done just that. GE has moved from Connecticut to Boston. Motorola has moved from the suburbs of Chicago downtown, as has McDonald's. And Aetna just announced that it was moving its headquarters from Connecticut to New York City. And Rolls-Royce, which was part of this study, moved its headquarters from the suburban Indianapolis area downtown. And the reasons that they're doing this are right here, and it's a trend that will really help us leverage 16 Tech and the opportunity there. It's primarily being driven by the fact, first of all, that cities have become much more attractive places to live over the last 30 years. You can see it right here in Indianapolis. The downtown is so much different than it was when I first came here 35, 40 years ago. That's a trend across the country, and that has resulted in talent wanting to locate in cities. That has begun to reverse the trend of population leaving the city for the suburban areas and the ex-urban areas to back downtown. And so many of these companies are moving to these cities because of a talent attraction play. It helps their brand. They want to be in close proximity to research institutions and other companies so that their employees can interact with other people in different industries, which is where innovation comes from. So the 16 Tech that we're building is 60 acres, as I've mentioned. It's focused on life sciences, advanced manufacturing, and information technology. It will be a mashup of startup companies as well as established companies. The universities will have a presence there, and it will be a live, work, play environment with real estate, outdoor health-related amenities, apartments, healthcare amenities, as well as a place to live and work. You can see the assets that 16 Tech is close proximity to here: the hospitals, the IU Medical School, and IUPUI. So this is where we're at today. John Hirschman is in the room. He is the president of Browning. And for the last few months, we have been working with Browning on 3 projects. The first is the Indiana Bioscience Research Institute, which will be the new headquarters of that institute. The second is an apartment building, which will be roughly about 300 units and will begin to create the live, work, play environment that we need to support retail. And then the third is a 5-story innovation office building that will have retail on the first floor and also collaboration spaces for startups as well as established companies. And then the fourth is related to that, and that is the conversion of a 40,000 square foot high bay garage into an innovation space that will provide programming for startups as well as established companies. And in that garage, we expect to have makerspace where individuals as well as companies can build prototypes. And we're having discussions with a national makerspace organization called TechShop about establishing a presence here. We're also going to have co-working space for startup companies in IT. And the IBRI plans on having wet lab space for startups. So we'll have a full range IT, advanced manufacturing that can be done in the makerspace, as well as medical device development can be done in the makerspace, as well as wet labs for startups. And that begins to create the innovation environment that actually is very attractive to established companies as well. A very big trend among large companies today is venture development and how they can take practices that are employed by startup companies, rapid prototype development, quick testing of ideas, and incorporate them internally so that they can become more innovative. And that's one reason why established companies in cities like St. Louis and Pittsburgh and Boston and Baltimore and Atlanta are setting up operations close to startup companies, because the two can benefit from being close to each other in really innovative ways. And we intend to have that kind of a culture at 16 Tech. Just points that I've already made. It will be a vibrant community. It will have access to the trail system in the region. It will be designed for purpose-built collaboration. And this is a rendering of the 5-story office tower that is being considered right now. And next to it, the smaller building, is the old headquarters of the Citizens Energy Company, which conceptually we can envision converting into, for example, expansion space for startup companies. Another vision of the tower next to the Innovation Garage, which is the flat building on the right, and the Citizens Energy Group. And then the multi-family project, which will create about 300 apartments. And our timeline is presented here, and this is the last slide. We're negotiating at the present time with Browning, and we expect to enter into a development agreement with Browning sometime this month or early next month on the first buildings. That will release enough TIF funding from the city to begin to do the infrastructure work, moving some pipelines and things like that to make the sites construction ready. We also plan on building a bridge that will connect 16 Tech. It's a new bridge that will connect 16 Tech to the hospital complex at the entrance to the Eskenazi site, which will facilitate the movement of people from that complex over to 16 Tech. That we expect those buildings and that bridge to be open in 2019. So you'll begin to see activity there in the near term. And that concludes my update. Thank you very much.